Hi there. In this screencast, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about how to use R for, use Emacs for debugging R code. So first things first, I'm going to point you to the ESS documentation page here, ess.rproject.org. Under documentation, HTML documentation, we can search for debugging, tools for package development and debugging, and so there's a list of different features that ESS provides. And so ESS tracebug is pretty cool. So it offers visual debugging, interactive error navigation, interactive backtrace, breakpoint manipulation, control over our actions, watch window, and interactive flagging, unflagging of functions for debugging. So it's on by default, and so here's all the commands that you can use: continue, step, up, quit, etc. So there's the key sequences that you can use for sending commands to the R debugger from Emacs. There's some additional commands that you can learn about down here. And so let's follow this example that they are explaining about here. So here I'm going to open up my local Emacs that we've been working with in the previous tutorials. And so in my local Emacs, let's put this this test function. How about that? So here, let's open up a buffer test.r, and let's yank that with Control Y. And evaluating the function results in an error about unexpected comma. So let's do that. So here I'm going to type Control C, and so here we have an error about an unexpected comma, indeed. You can use next error bound by default to Control X backtick or meta GN to jump to the place where the error occurred. Let's try that. Control X backtick. So that's pretty cool, right? Did you guys see that, right? Actually, so I mean, if our cursor is somewhere else, and then actually we click there, it's bringing our cursor to the exact line where that error happened, or you can just do Control X backtick, and so MGN is next error, so right. So let's see. Let's try again. Control C, Control C. So let's try meta GN. That's next error. So it brings us right there to the error. And meta GN again as the last error. So I guess we don't have to do it again. Alternatively, use the mouse and click on the error to jump where it occurred. That's what we were just doing. Correct the error by deleting the comma. Now put point on mean and set the breakpoint. Let's try that. So let's correct the error. Now put a point on mean and set the breakpoint using Control C, Control T, B. Let's try that. Control C, Control T, B. So now look at that. We have a little breakpoint that's been set in our code buffer. And reevaluate the function. So let's try that. Control C, we evaluate the function. And now jump to the inferior buffer, possibly using Control C, Control Z. Let's try that. Control C, Control Z. It goes right there to the command line, and evaluate test 1 to 10. Let's try that. Okay, so now we have a debugger that is stopped at that breakpoint that we set using our Emacs command. And now it says an interactive. Notice the line where we have the breakpoint is highlighted. That's pretty cool. And now it tells you what key sequences you can use down here, right? And meta C is for continuing. Control meta super C. That's for continue multi-line, maybe. And meta N is for next statement. and meta q is for quit. So those are probably the most common commands. And right here you can debug your function. What is x at this point? So let's try that. What is x? There we go, right? Use meta n to continue. Let's try that. Meta n. Oh, actually, so meta n there on the command line was doing completion. So maybe here we use the meta n, or is it meta capital N? Right, yeah, meta capital N, not lower n. That's pretty cool. So that's to continue. Let's replace our test function with one slightly more complicated. So let's do that. Here, let's copy those lines over here. Here, delete that breakpoint. Here, I'm putting, well, actually, trying to paste that stuff I have over here. Let's try it again. I'm copying in here, and I'll paste it, yank it over here. All right, let's try to do this one. Try setting multiple breakpoints. You can unset a breakpoint by killing it with Control-C, Control-T, K. I see. So yeah, before we had a breakpoint, Control-C, Control-T, B to set the breakpoint. And here to kill it, you know, or to set another breakpoint, here we can Control-C, Control-T, B. There, now we have two breakpoints. Here we can kill that first one using Control-C, Control-T, K. Goes away. And try setting one by placing it on the line, right? ESS will ask for the condition. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That's a conditional breakpoint using the capital B. So let's try that. So here, let's do Control-C, Control-T, capital B. Breakpoint condition is, or not is, that's right, not is numeric X. And that's pretty cool. So now we have a conditional breakpoint there that's going to go off whenever X is not numeric. And we see that the conditional breakpoints are signaled with a question mark, whereas the unconditional breakpoints are signaled with a square. And so after reevaluating tests, try calling test 100 and test foo. So let's try that. So here we reevaluate test, and now let's try test 100, and that one it stops at the second breakpoint because the first conditional breakpoint was not satisfied, right? Because the argument we gave actually is numeric. So here we can quit out of that using meta capital Q. And after that, we can try something else like test foo, and that's going to stop at our first conditional breakpoint, right? Same thing. So here I'm going to get out of that again by meta capital Q. So it says you can remove all breakpoints with Control-C, Control-T, capital K. Let's try that. Control-C, Control-T, capital K. All the breakpoints go away. You can flag a function for debugging similar to debug test at R's prompt by doing Control-C, Control-T, D. Control-C, Control-T, D. And so here it says, it asks for what function to debug. I guess we have to actually put it over the name of the function, Control-C, Control-T, D. Yeah? Yeah, so then it's going to prompt us for test as the default. Press enter, flag test for debugging. If an error occurs, you can get complete call stack by doing Control-C backtick or Control-C, Control-T backtick. So let's try that. So here, Control-C, Control-C. Here, let's do our test again. Non-numeric argument to binary operator. So what is the complete trace back? Control C backtick. So there's our full backtrace, which is not super informative because there was only one call, right? But I guess um, a more interesting example would be if we actually go to a real package, right? Um, so let's see, what else does it say here first? Tracebug also offers a watch window where you can watch values of objects. Open it with Control-C, Control-T-W. Initially, you aren't watching anything. Add something with A. The watch window displays what the object is at any given time and automatically updates. That's pretty cool. Let's try that. Control-C, Control-T, Control-C, Control-T-W. Watch list is empty. Append a new expression. Okay, so how about X, right? So X is on our watch list now. So if we're going to go in here and maybe execute these lines of code starting here, let's try that. Control-C, Control-B. Now we have a breakpoint. Now let's execute that line of code again. Test 1 to 10. So here it's going to take us into the debugger. And so it shows you that our X is starting out as this integer sequence. Here I'm using meta n to go to the next statement. And we see that the X automatically updates in that watch buffer. Here, now we stepped over that line, which didn't change X, so we didn't see anything update. Then here, X is probably going to change again, right? So here now we see X changing again after we executed that next line of code. Pretty cool, huh? So I'm going to quit out of that with Alt-Shift-Q. And now, yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing to mention here is that you don't have to use these Emacs control sequences. Control-T, Control-C, Control-T-K to kill that guy, right? But I mean, if you're used to using the standard, browser statements, I think that's going to work as well, right? So here, if I do test 1 to 10 again, here, it's opening up a browse thing, just like we have over here, right? And we also have, the same kind of commands, I think. So Control, Alt-Shift-N to go down to the next line, Alt-Shift-Q to quit out of that. So if you just insert browser statements, that's the same thing. It's maybe a little bit less typing to use the Control-C, Control-T-B once you get a hang of it. So yeah, I guess the other thing to maybe mention is that, like, if you're doing some package development and you get some error, you might want to see that backtrace. So let's go to an example package. Here I'm going to peakseg disk, where kind of the main function is peakseg fpop dir, I think. And so, if there's like some problem that that we put in the code, maybe penalty equals penalty stir plus 1, or I don't know what is something that we could do to introduce a funny error. Well, we could try to read a file that doesn't exist. That would be definitely an error. So, just as an example here. So remember from our previous tutorial, we can do load all using Control-C, Control-W-L. So that's loading that package. And now if we do, say, one of the examples, peakseg disk, peakseg fpop vec. So that's a function that's going to be calling our peakseg fpop dir function internally. And so if we're going to execute all of those examples here on that main page here, it's going to make a ggplot, and then we're going to do another ggplot, and here's where we're going to call that function. We should probably get an error, right? So here it says error in foo.csv file. Foo.csv does not exist or is non-readable. So here is a place where it might be interesting to look at that traceback. And again, to get that traceback, that's Control C backtick. So let's try that. Control C backtick. Control C backtick, right, in the R buffer. And so actually that's pretty cool because it shows you, well, on the first thing that we did, that's we called the pseg fpobvec like we just did. After that it called pseg fpobdf, and it gives you a link so you can see well, so that file's not found, right, but because we don't have that buffer open yet. But if we do the same thing here with the fread call, right, because we did have that pseg fpobdir file open, let's click there, and it's going to take us right to that line where the error was, so we can correct that. So that's pretty cool how we can get links in our traceback using that ESS functionality. That can help with our package development. Here I'm going to type Q to get out of that. And that's kind of the end of this tutorial. So yeah, I mean, maybe the last thing to mention is that, again, you can also use the regular traceback command if you want, and you get the same kind of stuff, right? You just save a little bit of typing doing the Control C backticks thing.